we are focusing on debt because debt is a problem that needs immediate solution, right? And those who are in debt often lack the right tools or support or even mentorship to just get out of debt. So we found that was probably the stickiest point of the problem. Investing is great and everyone should do it, but it is something that happens after you get rid of high interest debt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ship It and Sip It. This week, I'm very excited to have two amazing co-founders in the studio with me. Joyce and Laura are the co-founders of Investrio.io, and they've been working together on the last year to build Investrio out as a platform to eliminate debt and help young people reach their financial goals, make smarter financial decisions, and sort of live a life without the stress and worry that being in debt brings with it. In this conversation, they describe how they assessed each other's skills as founders, realized that they would be a perfect fit to work together and to work specifically on this problem. We talk about the challenges of building the first version of Investrio, how building in public has informed the decisions they make about the product and what's in it, and what plans they have for the future. Right now, Investrio is in a closed beta, but they're going to open it up soon. Joyce and Laura bring a strong background in both the financial world and the startup world, and the combination of skills that they bring to Investrio, I think, sets them up in a great position for success with the product. As always, Ship It and Sip It is presented by Paralect Startup Studio. We've been happy to work together with Joyce and Laura on Investrio for the last several months, and we're very happy that the MVP of the product is out there being used now by their community and getting feedback on the product itself. So we talk about that journey, we talk about the launch, we talk about the lessons that they've learned along the way. I think it's a great show. I think you'll learn a lot. So stick around, and thank you once again, Joyce and Laura, for joining me today. Hello, Joyce and Laura. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
As usual, we will start with the question I always start with on Ship It and Sip It. What have you shipped this week that folks should check out?
Yeah, so this past week we shipped our budgeting tool. We're in private beta right now, and we are so excited to be testing with our users.
Fantastic. And we're here to talk all about Investrio. Let's see. Laura, you posted recently on LinkedIn that it's been almost exactly a year since you met with Joyce, and you met over Y Combinator's co-founder matching platform. So what were you doing on there? What were you hoping to find in terms of a co-founder? And we'll start with you, Laura.
Well, the YC co-founder matching platform, first of all, great product. I spent hours there swiping and reading through profiles until I saw Joyce's profile. But the story behind it is that I had the entrepreneurial bug for a while at that point, and I knew I had a vague idea that what I wanted to do. It needed to be something in finance. It needed to be something within tech, and back then I also felt like it needed to be something within the Latino community. I'm from Colombia, but I work abroad all my life, which meant that I don't know, I was craving to do something for my community. And I went into the YZ platform, messaged a few people, but I remember seeing Joyce's profile and it was like spot on what I also wanted to do. The mission was, we were aligned in the mission. And I think that's probably the most important thing in the early stage days, right? Because your product is going to change so much, but you need to find someone that you can align with when it comes to the vision for the product and also what motivates you in general as a founder. So I messaged her, we met, we traveled the world, we moved countries, we moved states, and now we're here building Investrio together.
Fantastic. Joyce, what were you looking for there?
Yeah, I have to second Laura. I was at the time I had created a social media platform and had been talking about personal finance, had already been communicating with the Latino community, but I knew I wanted to build something beyond it. At that time, too, we were just using an Excel spreadsheet as a product, but I knew that there was something I could develop into something bigger and better. And I just didn't know quite how. So I was looking for the perfect partner who had that experience building startups, had the experience running startups so that I could, partner with and make it bigger and make it really the product that it's becoming today.
Very cool. And so, in terms of Investrio, you were both kind of thinking about something in the fintech space. Did you both have a really similar idea, or what did it look like? How did you arrive at the idea of Investrio more concretely?
Yeah,
Okay.
so Laura actually had this amazing outline of questions, and we went through a series of interviews to know each other, to really get down to what we should be building. And then we sort of went through an accelerator program. So Laura has experience running accelerators and brought her program basically inside of our mini startup at the time. And so we did all the idea finding, all the questions, the research due diligence, to really narrow down the idea. So we went through a program at that point that we self ran and started to build the idea upon it. And eventually we started discussing it with our clients and users and social media. But that was it.
Yeah, it's important to mention that Joyce already had built a community and also had coaching clients in the personal finance space, which made the job of compromising with an idea much easier, right? Because we were doing not only market research on what was trending, where the problems were standing, what were pain points that people were suffering at the moment, but we also had direct feedback from users and clients that Joyce had at the time, which allowed us to shape what Investor is today a bit more beyond of what Joyce or I get more excited about or what we wanted to build, right? Because it's fun. Being a founder is fun. Building something, it's the fun part of it. But we were like kind of strict on okay, it needs to be something that people want and need and that we can turn around quite fast, and that's how we came to the final idea or where we are at now, also being conscious that it's probably going to continue evolving and changing in the years to come.
Right on. And as you were talking on Y Combinator, how did you already mentioned certain elements of this, but how did you realize that you each brought the right sort of complementary skills and skill set to build and launch Investrio together? I hear a lot of founders ask about how to find the right co-founder. This is a common pain point. So share as much as you'd like around that time and sort of what criteria you use to find a match.
Well, Joyce mentioned a set of questions I brought in our first, let's call it date. There's this question with 50 questions that you should ask a potential co founder. And I think we spent at least 2 weekends going through these questions in detail. And it was a good way of getting to know someone as well. Like it talks about why do you want to build a business, what are your ambitions, short term, long term, what are your superpowers, what are the things that you're not so good at that you will need compliments. So we really got into the detail, both emotionally but also technically. Like you had to be as open as possible into these are my flaws, these are the things I'm good at, these are my fears, and these are my motivations. And I think after we did the questions, we both agreed on doing a period of like a trial project, which was where we were developing some of the ideas and understanding how you work together, because hopefully this is a person you're going to be working with for the next 5 to 10 years. So you want it to be a good working relationship. And after we did the trial, we also met in person. In that first day, we were not really allowed to talk business. It was more like intentionally, can we be friends as well, right? Because it's a long term journey. So you also want to make sure that it's not just the technical, the ambitions, the complementary skill, but it's also someone you can have fun with, because being a founder is pretty hard. And it's easier when you have a good partner that can help you through the difficult times. Joyce, I don't know if there's something else you'd like to add.
Yeah, no, I double click on that. We can definitely have fun together. And ever since then, we've been traveling back and forth and working together when we can. But we meet every day. We talk all the time. We're across all the medias. And it's been so far a really balanced relationship too, where Laura knows her strengths and knows my strengths, and we can like help each other. And if we can't, we always help each other find the person that can help us or talk about it with external peers. So I think when it comes down to it, having a open relationship where you can discuss what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and being very honest. I think that's what really matters when you're finding the right co-founder.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's systematic, it's logical, it all makes so much sense. So great job. Well done on that part. All right. Laura also shared a blog post on LinkedIn about her first attempt at building a startup, how that informed what's happening with Investrio. And is there anything else you'd like to expand on from that post? I can put a link in the show notes if people want to read it. I recommend that they do. It's good. But Laura, I guess, how did your experience in the first startup inform how you and Joyce are handling Investrio so far?
A lot. It would be bad if we if I didn't learn from the first startup. And the hardest lesson is probably around just doing your customer research and not building something that you want in isolation. It's really important. And I've worked with founders in the past. My background is in the venture space, and I advise over 25 startups in the Web3 sphere. And it's a common mistake. And I get why as well, right? It's exciting when you're like obsessed with an idea that you think is going to change the world, but you need to validate with other people. So that's really important for us before spending a lot of money, building an MVP. You hear stories about people spending 100 to $500,000 with zero traction, and it's painful because first, as a founder, it's painful to see that your ideas are not being received as you expect, but also for investors, right? You don't want to break your bridges with investors. But no, in the article I cover a lot of points, but yeah, just make sure you're doing your customer research, founder market fit, use your strengths. Like you're building a career in music, then try to build a startup in music, not in soccer. You see that a lot.
Yeah.
And yes, you can succeed, of course there are cases, but it's going to be 1,000 times more difficult because you simply don't know the industry, you don't have the context, you don't know the pain points, and you don't know how it works. So stick to what you know.
All right. And Joyce, we've mentioned this a couple times so far. I want to dig into it a little bit more. What kind of community did you build as you were working in the financial world? You were working on Wall Street. Um, I guess, yeah, what kind of community did you build in terms of followership, and how did they inform you about what was missing from the fintech market, products on the market right now, and what Investrio could sort of fill in terms of gaps?
Sure, sure. And there are two separate things, right? So my career on Wall Street, I was a sales trader at Goldman Sachs, and then eventually had left to go work at a fintech where we built algorithms for trading named Quantitative Brokers. They're now owned by Deutsche Börse Group. Um, but while working in finance, I also learned that a lot of my peers did not know personal finance specifics. And I had a conversation with a friend, and I realized that she was still struggling with personal finance in the sense like she had debt or didn't know how to invest, didn't know how to reach the stock market. And in a couple of minutes, I was able to clear that up for her and answer her questions. And then I realized it's like, oh, people still need help with this. So why don't I go to social media? It was specifically Instagram and just post about it, right? Non judgmental, educational. I have certifications in the area, so I knew what I was posting was legit. And it wasn't advice, it was just educational at the time. And very quickly, a lot of my peers growing up in Massachusetts reached out and they were like, wow, I did not know this. Can you talk about it a little bit more? Can you make more videos on this? And so I did that. And very quickly, we grew to 4,000 followers, very active community. We share posts all the time. We decided to make more posts and video content so that we can explain details a bit further. We now write a blog. But essentially, that community lent itself to one on one coaching. And eventually, that coaching turned into something greater, which is now part of Investrio, because we realize when there is accountability and mentorship, financial goals are met. So yeah, that's the story.
Interesting.
It's a long story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very cool. And since Laura mentioned earlier a lot about customer research, how have you sort of used that community to do your customer research? And more specifically, like if a founder is watching this, say, okay, yes, they did customer research. Did they talk to 50 people? Did they talk to 100 people? Like, how did you organize it, and what did the whole process look like?
Sure. That's a good point. We've talked to hundreds of people, and over time, I gave my calendar away on social media, and I would ask people if you have questions, jump on in. And every time I had a customer, I would call them customers at this point, reach out. They had specific questions about different spectrums of the personal finance world, but it always lent back to three major pieces, which is the name Investrio based out of. Um, and that was budgeting, debt management, and investing. So those are the three legs that make up Investrio. And essentially, when I talked to all of those customers, I would get back to the same exact thought. Like everyone wants to get to investments, but they have debt. They don't have a budget. They don't have the basics. And so we would walk through that. And I would always ask, like, do you already use a personal finance tool? What would be helpful? And they always said to me, finance tools are great, but having one-on-one conversation like this where I can get like I can get it done within a couple of minutes, or I can clear some of my questions. That was always helpful to them, and so that lent itself to, okay, we can never take away this mentorship aspect of the product. We have to continue this handheld like communication part of the product. Um, and so essentially, hundreds of people really confirmed the idea with us. Over time, we continue to refine it. And even now, with the product, whenever we launch something, we go back to either clients, followers, the larger group, and we put it out to our wait list to see if anyone wants to test it with us.
Very cool. Thank you. Laura, you were in London and you were working at Outlier Ventures, as you mentioned, in the Web3 space. So that was, I'm not sure when you were there. I started out in tech working, writing content for a crypto startup back in 2000, late 2017, 18. So that hype cycle happened. I was front row for that. It was interesting. But what did you see from that space that was sort of missing in terms of the consumer fintech products?
There's a lot to learn from the Web3 space, both in what to do and what not to do. The main learning on what to do and what they do so well is the community building. And it's also a reason why when I met Joyce and I saw that she was putting so much effort into the community, I knew like, okay, this is going to be a right partnership. Because in today's day, where acquiring customers is so expensive in fintech as well, you can't just throw marketing budget at things. You need the power of community, and that's something that is essential in Web3 projects when it comes to consumer companies. And then when it comes to what was missing, in that I would look for a lot were real world use cases of how blockchain technology could make a difference for people. I believe it can, but in the areas and regions of the world where it can be transformational, where it can bank their own bank, which is the actual essentials of why this technology and why Bitcoin, for example, was created, it's still a long way for it to happen. For example, in Latin America and countries in Africa, where decentralized finance can bring top-notch solutions, it's still early days. But it excites me, and what I bring to Investrio with that is we need to make sure we're making real world, bringing real world solutions to our customers, and that we can push them forward financially. Right now in fintech, it's a lot about money tracking. We want to make sure that we unify these money tracking tools, but we also push you forward with financial advice, because tracking is not enough.
Right on. All right. So I assume over the year that you've been sort of working on this, you've pitched it to investors or advisors. What's the reaction been like?
It's been really awesome because it's a story that we continue to evolve and improve, right? So um, it's like taking a download from your head and putting it into a PowerPoint. And at first, it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be, and now it's definitely better. So I would say for any founder out there, practice your pitch, practice it with different audiences because it improves over time, and get the feedback, get the honest feedback. For us, so far, we've won a couple pitch competitions. We are pitching to investors on a weekly basis, getting feedback. We're not fundraising quite yet, but we're getting there. The response has been really positive so far because we're focused on specifically problems that everyday people are facing and solutions that everyday people can afford. And so investors are feeling like this is exactly the time for this. Let's talk about it in more detail. But so far it's been really great. And Laura has a lot more experience in this.
And of course, it's important to mention that we've also had tons of rejections as well. It's normal. It's part of the path. So if founders are listening to this and they got not yet another rejection email, it's just a game. At the same time, we get digesters, we get invited to pitch at competitions, we get approached by the investors, even though we're not raising. And we take everything as an opportunity to improve our narrative. The tough questions, which we get, a lot of them, just help us then after the pitch. Okay, Joyce, how are we going to pick up this question next time? So it's never like a defeating feeling. It's always a fuel to be better on the next pitch.
Very cool. All right, let's get into the product a little bit then in more detail. So when I first looked at the website, I was like, cool, get out of debt. That makes sense. But then my second thought was sort of like, but I also am still kind of young and I also want to invest. I don't have debt, thankfully. Is Investrio right for me? I wasn't quite sure. So tell us about the timeline and what were some major challenges and who is Investrio for at the moment?
Sure. That's a great question. Great feedback, by the way. And to second on Laura's point, we also do get rejections, and I acknowledge those. But I'm a happy-go-lucky. So Investrio is for young professionals today. We are focusing on debt because debt is a problem that needs immediate solution, right? And those who are in debt often lack the right tools or support or even mentorship to just get out of debt. So we found that that was probably the stickiest point of the problem. Investing is great and everyone should do it, but it is something that happens after you get rid of high interest debt. Um, right now, we have focused on the ages of 25 to 35, young professionals who have a lot of debt. That could be credit cards, student loans in the US are very, very high. That could be other kinds of debt as well, personal loans, or you name it. It is a $1.2 trillion problem in the US specifically. So, again, another reason why we decided to focus on it. If you go on our website today, we're still in wait list and we're still in private beta, but very shortly we will be launching in public our product, which helps you not only get out of debt, it also helps you with your budget right now. And eventually we will have smart suggestions, which is a tool that we plan to put in place which are really smart suggestions for you to move forward, the next best action that you should be taking with your money. Eventually, we aim to get into the investing space, but we are bound by regulations. We have to make sure the right people and compliance is in place as well. So we decided, let's start with what we can do first, and what is the biggest problem, and then eventually we'll add on the rest.
Yeah, that's really smart. Anything else you'd like to add there, Laura?
No, I mean, Joyce covered it perfectly. But debt is urgent. It's an urgent problem, not just as a society, but also if you're in debt, you're gonna get a reminder every month. So we want to remove that emotional stress and just help people get out of debt.
All right, awesome. And how did you get connected with us here at Paralect? And can you share some highlights or challenges that you faced in terms of building out the actual product?
First of all, just want to say it's been awesome working with the team. We're completely happy, always like excellent communication, delivering even earlier than the deadlines that were planned. So just big claps to the Paralect team. Back to your question, we did extensive research. We interviewed over 60 development agencies. That's a lot. That was 2 weeks of our work, meeting with people, just making sure that there was the right fit, not just technically, but that we had the right energy, that they understood our vision for the product, that they had experience in the fintech landscape. And we ended up finally deciding to work with Paralect. We found Paralect through um, like freelance marketplace. I'm not sure if I can mention it.
Sure.
It was Upwork.
Yeah.
So through Upwork, we connected with Senia, and she's been awesome from day one.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great to hear. And let's see. She wanted me to ask specifically about the challenges you had with the first team, not to shame them or anything, but just to highlight, I guess, how it was better with Paralect,
Sure.
without sugarcoating or without hiding the point of this in any way. What challenges did you face with the first team that you used?
Sure. Yeah, we had a bumpy start. We decided to build in-house, and at the time, we were working with one developer, and it was a bit slow, and it was a bit difficult. And after a while, we decided, hey, look, this is not the right fit, and we decided to go the agency route. At that time, we decided to migrate all the code, have a full, thorough review. Senya and the team were amazing at scoping out, creating a proper plan, very diligent in terms of communication, like Laura mentioned. And so by the time we received the code, we knew exactly what we were getting. And that was for us as non technical founders, or really not the coding founders, it was a great way to get closer to the product and really understand what's happening in the delivery. And ever since then, I mean, we've been testing weekly with them, great calls, Slack communication is fantastic. And even getting the code beforehand, like Laura mentioned, ahead of schedule, which is for us fantastic because then we can schedule more tests and get things done faster.
Awesome. And do you have any other feedback on the development process, the design, or any of the other parts of the building process that you had with Paralect?
I think the most important thing when you're starting up, and it's just two of us at the moment and some freelancers, and there's so much to do. It's just great to feel like you can trust your technical partner. Things will be delivered as they promised, and that they understand the vision. That's it. We can each get to do our job without having to worry every day, is the job getting done, is the product going forward, and that's been a blessing.
I would agree. And every time we ask the team for support, it's above and beyond, right? Design wise, feedback wise. And we ask for very open, transparent communication. Like, you have a lot of experience building tools and MVPs. Like, tell us if we're going the wrong direction. which we also appreciate, given that we're not seeing the different stages of development every day. So I would say that that's another added benefit to working with Paralect.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I would be sad to miss my opportunity to ask this from a more of a marketing perspective. But when you said you reviewed 60 different agencies, I am very curious, how did sort of Paralect make it near the top of that consideration set?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm very methodic. So we had a spreadsheet that will analyze maybe 7 different factors that were going to influence the decision, right? And something that stood out with Paralec was just the communication style. Just remember them providing a clear brief, which you'll be surprised not many agencies did. Like, I understand you're like interviewing lots of people, but Paralec never, at the start of the process, never felt like we were just another number. They took the time to make a brief that clearly show that they understood our product, what we needed, and just how fast they were going to ship it. So that was really important. And we were just able to trust them from the beginning. But I think the communication element that we've mentioned several times now was key. Clear communication right from the start on what was expected, and again that they understood what we wanted to build.
I'll double click on that. I think the team added value from the moment we met them. And that to us was different from any, if many of the people we met with, but it was a clear value add, and we took away so many notes and perspectives from that original first or two second calls. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. That's great to hear. All right. When you look back at the idea for Investrio maybe 8, 10 months ago and the MVP that's out now in the closed beta, as you mentioned, how similar are they, and what are some of the major changes along the way?
We just laugh. It's different. I think the overarching theme of wanting to help people move forward financially remains. The how is different. The more narrow focus on a specific problem is different. But the mission remains, and that's why when I mentioned at the beginning, it's important to have a team that is aligned in the mission, because the product is going to continue changing. So right now we also have a vision for the next 10 months, but who knows what's that going to look like.
Yeah, it never looks exactly as you imagined it. And a year ago, it was a completely different vision, but we had to narrow it down further and further. And after a lot of research and again, the customer interviews, that's how we decided to where to even start.
Cool, cool. So what does success look like for Investrio in sort of 6 to 10 months?
Yeah. In the next 6 to 10 months, we want to be in the public. We want to be actively having subscribers, supporting. Our product is platform plus the mentorship plus the communities. So we want to have all of those active points already out there. We also want to have successfully raised so that we can support this growth. And also, we want to have a widespread marketing campaign where we get more users over time.
The next 6 months, it's more about further validation from the market, users, and investors, and that's what we're preparing for.
I did have one follow-up question. You've mentioned the mentorship side of it several times. I'm curious what that looks like in the product itself. Is that some sort of matching with a mentor? Is it some sort of AI mentor? What's going on there?
Yeah, that's a great point. At first, it is humans, but we are working on our proprietary algorithm right now, which will eventually be some of the suggestions that we will provide to our users. And that is based off of hundreds of these customer interviews, some of the common questions that they ask, some of the common points of I guess, pain that customers feel. But at first, yes, it's humans, eventually AI, generative AI based.
Let's talk about being two women founders and what that experience has been like for you. A lot of fintechs are not founded by women, and a lot of startups aren't founded by women. A lot of funding doesn't go to women founders. Unfortunately, that's the truth of the startup scene. So, um, share as much or as little as you'd like about that experience. What support have you found? How has it been to work with another woman as a co-founder?
I think for both of us, we come from a hardcore finance background as well, whether it is for algorithms trading for Joyce and Goldman Sachs, or the venture space and crypto for me. So that you start becoming detached of the gender notion, because for so long you've just been as well a woman in finance that you don't think about the gender element that much until you read the statistics and then you know that statistically, women founders get only 2% of venture capital money, right? So we are aware of it. However, I think so far it's not something that's played against us. We know what we have to do. We know that if you build a good product that people like and the traction comes, we'll just get it done regardless if we're women or men, even though we do have it a bit harder based on the statistics. But personally, I haven't encountered a situation where being a woman has played against me or against building Investrio. If anything, there have been groups that we can participate on that support women founders, and you can increase your network as a women founder.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that. I think there's been a seismic change in perspective, especially because there are more women founders. There is this bigger empowerment of women founders, regardless of the industry. So I love to be part of that, first of all. I think when it comes down to it, it's alignment with mentors. So our mentors are key to our success as well. And we're aligned with so many people who have the experience, who want to see us succeed, but beyond that, are so aligned to the mission. They see the problem and they want to be part of the solution, which is what we're doing. And I think there's a couple other things that we want to note. Women are better portfolio managers and traders overall because we're better risk managers. And I think when it comes down to capital, women are a lot more detail oriented. And so you can give a woman and a man a dollar, and that dollar will stretch much further with women. And so, not to say that we're doing something different, but we're much more diligent with how we use capital, and we plan to do the same with when our investors put that money towards our business. So there's a lot going on. I think we just want to be part of that seismic shape of solution.
Awesome. Are there any particular founders that inspire you?
Yes. For me, beyond tech, um, I always admire Sarah Bakley's story and the founder of Spank, for many reasons. And this is a consumer shapewear brand, right? But she founded it back in the 90s, now a billionaire, no zero outside investment. And she talks a lot about her story, her the hustle on going to the stores and selling selling her ties herself and designing everything from her house. And before that she was like a fax vendor machine. I don't even know if fax machines still exist. um but I just love her story, and she's super, like, she's really open with the way her company grew. Now she exited and still holds a seat in the board. But I just admire her resilience, and the fact that back then venture capital money wasn't that sexy anyway, right? That came from the dot-com boom, and being able to grow the brand to multi-billion dollars in revenue is just something to admire and to respect, especially back in the 90s.
Very cool. Joyce?
Yeah, same. I admire the hustle. I think for me, it's Sally Krawcheck. She founded Elevest, and her mission is to get more women to invest. And I just appreciate the message. I appreciate the mission. And I think when it comes down, these are male-dominated industries. So any woman that is trying to push the needle forward, let's just support each other because at the end of the day, like she says, nothing wrong or nothing bad happens when women have more money. So,
Awesome. All right, let's wrap up with some of the building public stuff. You both post quite a bit on LinkedIn, and Joyce, you've obviously done a lot on Instagram previous to this, and I assume you still do. Is that posting about your story as a founder? Does that come naturally to you, or is it something that you have to like put it on the top of your to-do list and check it off first to make sure it gets done?
we have reminders. We challenge each other to put it out there a lot more, and we're working actively to increase our visibility. So I think it just helps when we talk about, the challenges, the success, the struggles, but we're very open about our stories.
Also, it's free. Being practical, right? Like it's free. It takes time. So if you think about time as a currency, it's not bad. At this point where the budgets are so tight, so we have no real budget for marketing, you have to wear so many hats, and that includes being public and marketed and sharing the message, and you never know who's going to read it. And we have met amazing people from putting ourselves out there, and people that maybe were part of our network or they just came across our message and, hey, I would like to have a chat, and potentially they might be advisors to us, or they will introduce you to the next person that it's going to make a change in your business. So I encourage people to try it. It's hard sometimes because we do have a business to run, and writing content, like good quality content, takes time. Like you can't just chat GPT. I wish, but somehow it's getting worse as well. So you do have to put the time to make a story that is engaging so that other people get to learn about what we're building. So it's a great tool for visibility, and it's completely free.
Very cool. Assuming that you would like to grow the team at Investrio, how have you thought about sort of the culture you'd like to build within your startup? Do you have any sort of core tenets for what that would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to build a team that is like us, ego free, get shit done, no matter what your title is, just talk about it, get it done, find the resources. So we're really builders, go getters, and we want to grow a team that is just like us, a very healthy, growing team. But I think for me, that's pretty much the necessary thing. As flat as we possibly can, everybody works together. We are just working towards the mission.
Yeah, that's the number one thing I look for in people in general is the hustle. It's so important in today's world to be able to bring someone in that, maybe their background is in marketing, but if you need to do some finance stuff, they will find a way to get it done, right? Because they need to find it exciting. For example, in myself, I find exciting the challenge of doing something I have no clue how to do. For other people, it's overwhelming, and that's not the best way they perform. But for me or for Joyce, that's the best. That type of challenge brings the best out of us. The uncertainty, the just trying to figure out a way just to get it done. That's really important, and also the flexibility in general as a culture. Making sure that as long as you get your job done, we're not the type of people that are going to be looking if you're working at 7 a.m. or 3 p.m. or 9 p.m. Like it's all about just getting it done at this stage.
Awesome. All right. I did have one more follow-up question that ties back to your motivations for Investrio. And you both mentioned that you wanted to build something for the Latino community or connected to the Latino community. And that is, I guess, is Investrio going to be available outside of the US, or is it going to be a platform that's open globally?
Yeah, that's a great point. At first, what united us was this empowerment of the Latino community, but we realized very quickly it's beyond that. Our followers are from all sorts of diverse backgrounds. We've helped people from all over the US. And even if we can, we would love to open it out widely to the world. I think LATAM has a huge opportunity for financial technology firms. We'd love to support them. It just comes down to compliance and being able to open the product abroad. But yeah, we would love to.
All right. Let's wrap up. Where is the best place for folks to follow along for news and updates about Investrio? I didn't find your Instagram, but I'll work on getting that for the show notes as well. I'll put links to both of your LinkedIn accounts. Is there anywhere else that folks should follow?
Yes. So we write a weekly newsletter, and if you join our wait list, you will be enrolled into that. Just go to our website, www.investrio.io. And if you'd like to get finance tips on the daily, you can follow us at Instagram, which is also investrio.io.
Very cool. All right. Anything else that folks should know about Investrio before we wrap things up?
If you want to try our product and be part of our beta testing, just John is going to share our contact and our details. Just reach out, and we're taking more testers. So yeah, just reach out. We're happy to help. It also comes with a bit of financial coaching. So just reach out.
Awesome. Well, Joyce, Laura, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been great to hear about the idea, your paths to building it and launching it, and your good experience working with us here at Paralect. I look forward, hopefully, it's a long and fruitful relationship that we have going into the future. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.